Hey everybody, it's John Barrowman here, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends with Martin the Flash, Harley Quinn, and X-Force 11. Now you all may know me as playing Malcolm Merlin, and here's a little something for you. Every warrior must learn the simple truth that pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
You think you know the story. You've heard it 100 times. But this is not the tale that you know. For this part of the story has yet to be written. Join Flash, Harley, and X-Force 11 as they take the Waverider into the near future and check in on some old friends. This is the new adventures of Superman and Lois, as chronicled by Tomorrow's Legends.
Hello, Super Fam of Steel. It's clobbering time. Oh, wait a sec. That's a different family team in a different multiverse altogether. Truth is, I'm putting my very important playoff hockey game on pause to be here. The things I sacrifice for this podcast. And the consequence of it is I might be distracted from where I am as we cover this fantastic episode of Superman and Lois, fittingly titled Truth and Consequences, which was directed by our man, Diggle David Ramsey. So with that, I am the blue and white Flash tonight. Go Leafs, go!
And I'm Harley Quinn.
And I'm the flying through the North Carolina thunderstorm clouds, X-Force 11.
Hello, legends.
Yeah, a little crazy down there for you right now, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, any news other than we're on a bit of a hiatus again after this week, eh?
Yeah, so we've got a couple-week break. The show will return on May 31st for the final 4 episodes back-to-back. So I'm looking forward to those after watching this episode. So
I know. Such a long hiatus after the way this one went, because I'm pretty sure we're all really high in the clouds on it.
Yeah.
But the break does work out well because you're going to be busy for a little bit, and I've got eye surgery, and, Jess could probably use a bit of a break herself, I'm sure.
Yeah, just, life is crazy over here as usual. So
yeah. So, despite we don't want the show to break because we've had enough hiatuses for the show already. My God, this is number 4?
There's been a lot.
So,
Yeah,
there's been a lot. So I haven't checked the numbers recently to see if viewers are dropping off right now or not, because, boy, this is what really hurts a show.
And we still don't know about Stargirl yet.
Yeah, still no official news on when it's premiering.
That's what I
thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I keep looking.
All right.
All I see are cancellations.
Yeah. Oof, I know. It's crazy. There is I've seen a few different voting polls out there by TV Line and Entertainment Weekly, and there's a few other ones out there voting for your shows to be renewed and save, like, quote-unquote, save your show. So if you guys go searching for Legends of Tomorrow, make sure you get your vote in. And the last one I saw for TV Line, Legends is leading with, like, 77% of the vote for
Yeah,
not
that's
being
last
saved. So
time I saw it.
So look for those things. Get out there, get your name on the list there to help our show, because you never know. There's rumors they're thinking about, do we do a TV movie to finish it off? Do we wrap it up? I mean, it's just talk. So we have no idea. We got no actual hard evidence of anything, but there is the comic book. The little bit that I read today, there is the comic book in the Earth Prime series, the 6-issue series that we will cover on the show once they're all out. But apparently from what I read is that comic, the story in that it was supposed to lead into season 8 of Legends, so it'll kind of give us a hint as to where they were going, and then what they're going to do after that. I don't know.
Yeah.
If we get more comics, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I'm going to dig into the first 3 issues this weekend and read them, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. As far as I know, each episode is about, or each issue is about each TV show, and somehow there's an underlying story point that ties them all together, like the villain or something like that. I'm not really sure, but yeah. Let's see.
Cool.
So check it out. Let's get to our general impressions of the show.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
All right, X-Force.
I gave this one 9 knockout blows. I loved the fight sequences and the flight sequences in this episode. I loved Clark coming clean to Lana, and it nips any romance that she was starting to feel towards him in the bud. And I was glad about that. I didn't enjoy the teen drama with John and Jordan, and even Nat some too, but the ep had a great pace, and it makes me look forward to the last 4 episodes of this season.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I gave this one 9 Superman reveals because there it is, folks. Lana finally knows. And I definitely feel like that is fitting since she's the new mayor and all. So my question is, will they tell Sarah what's been up with Jordan? I don't know. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I really had to jump to the end with that reveal because that was definitely a big high point for me. We definitely got some things confirmed throughout this episode, and I'm just excited to see how they wrap it all together and end our season.
Mm-hmm.
And I am right there with you guys, even a little bit higher. I'm giving it a 9.5, everything we want in a show. And I just realized as you guys were speaking, I didn't actually write my my write-up. I went through the rest of the notes and added in the feedback, and I completely forgot to come back. So I never finished this. This is completely off the cuff. All I'm going to say is this is why this show is so good, and the new lead of the Arrowverse/Superverse. I loved all of it. There's nothing to complain about from my end, and I cannot wait to finish it out when the show comes back. And that is probably my shortest monologue ever.
It is, for the record.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the show. Where are we going first?
Okay, let's talk about Bizarro Jon. And he, we pick up immediately after last episode. He arrives at the farm, and he is going after John, but Jordan stops him. And unfortunately, he's not strong enough to really get in the way and prevent this, so the merger starts happening. But thankfully, Superman makes it back in time and breaks them apart. So this was an exciting beginning to the episode.
It was, because they left us on that cliffhanger, and so they did not waste any time, which is good, because I was on the edge of my seat last week wanting to see how this was all going to play out, even though I was fairly confident. I knew how it was going to play out. I needed that confirmation. I needed to see it. I was honestly only about 50-50 that they weren't going to end up merging this episode. I didn't think it would happen right away, but I was like, oh, I wonder if they'll come back to it and if it'll still end up happening. It's just because it's interesting to me, like how it seems to affect the two Johns. So for our John, it kind of seemed like it was definitely like more painful. And I was wondering if that's because he was kind of like unwilling to merge, because when the alleys were merging, I didn't feel like there didn't seem to be that element of pain for one of them over the other. What do you guys think about that?
That's an interesting idea. You are right. He looked kind of uncomfortable with what was happening. Now, was he feeling pain, or was he just screaming and crying and, no, I don't want this to happen, stop. Like, I bet you it's probably a combination of both. We just couldn't tell. But yeah, it was interesting to see that. But I mean, it was a good fight. Jordan did all right. I just think his type of training with Grandpa there is push-ups and things like lifting weights and things. I don't think he's had a lot of hand-to-hand combat yet. Whereas we know John kind of gets into it at school. I'm sure he does on his world too. He's kind of gotten into it in school, like schoolyard fights and sport fights or whatever. So he's just got that experience. And because I think they're fairly matched, strength-wise, they're pretty even. It was just more fighting skill that John was able to take him down on. But it was a good fight. Just like I said last week, you could feel every hit. They made sure we knew that these were superpowered beings throwing the punches. Everything thundered and clapped and shook the ground, and that's the difference with the show. Is just that they know how to make it feel that there's powers at play here, and I just really appreciate that. So yeah, it was good timing that Superman got in there right at the right moment there, because the merge was happening. So was pretty cool that he flew in there. But wow, it was like a supersonic speed punch that he did to break him apart. Because
yeah, and I'm pretty sure John's gonna have some bruising there. He was icing his chest, but Clark blowing them apart is, Bizarro Jon recovered fast, but our John is not.
Yeah, and that ties into us always asking if he has any ability yet. Like, we were thinking, does he have a healing factor or something? Because if he's got nothing, absolutely nothing, a move like that could kill him.
Yeah,
I think that's what they were worried about.
Yeah. So
crazy.
So after that, Bizarro Jon flies off and is kind of like getting the lay of the land, and he is freaking out everybody because he's just so weird from our John, and Clark can't do a whole lot about it because of the way things are going. And so I thought this was an interesting contrast of people looking at that John and thinking like, what's going on here, because it's so different.
Yeah, and I thought this was like super creepy, especially that one scene like where he's right outside the diner and he's just standing there. I mean, kudos to Jordan, the actor, for managing to look menacing when all he was doing was standing there, but it was creepy. I mean, like, the music probably helped too, but it just, I don't know, he had a very intense, I'm gonna do something terrible look on his face, and I just thought that was well done.
It's all about the eyeliner, Harley.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah. He did a good job. I think he's, like you've been talking about, like a lot of our listeners have been saying, is he's had nothing to do on the show for a while other than be kind of sidelined with some of his football stories and stuff. So I think he's really relishing this type of role to get to play a version of himself like that and be mean and angry. So it's fun to watch him. He's doing a really, really good job. And yeah, he's a bit of a creep. He's hot-headed, and he's got power and money and all that, success from his world. It just went to his head. So he's bringing that over here. And over here, he's even more powerful because our version of people seem like kind of weak to him. Like, he's coming over here, nobody knows that he has this strength, and it just seems like we're a little bit, our innocent bystanders almost seem like they're a little bit weaker than they are in his world because we don't know, if that makes sense. So it's,
interesting.
I don't know, but good job for sure. He was definitely, you could tell he's having fun with this part.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious to see how you guys felt about this, because I really wasn't sure how I felt about this friction that they were trying to create between Lana and Clark. Like, right when he runs into her out of the diner. I mean, yes, his behavior was a little rude, but to be fair, she caught him off guard, and he was clearly very focused on something. Like, he was on a mission to do something, and she's just like, hey, how's it going? I haven't seen you in forever. Like, I want to catch up. And he was really flustered by that. And so I didn't like this scene very much. It definitely was something that brought the episode down just a tad for me. I mean, I gave it a 9, but let's be real. But I don't know. It just felt too extra for me, too manufactured. It's just, I don't know. It was manufactured to set up the reveal at the end, but I did not enjoy this.
Okay.
I could have done without this scene entirely.
Oh, I didn't mind it at all, because it put, I liked it for the fact that it put Clark in such an uncomfortable position. Yes, it leads to him realizing that he needs to fill her in, so this type of situation comes up again, because you can imagine how emotionally difficult that is for him. This is his best friend he's known his entire life, and he has to lie to her point blank when and at a point when she hasn't seen him for a month, and he just has to cold shoulder her. But just think of the situation he's in. There's evil Jonathan right across the street, and he needs to get to him. He's got to stop him because that kid's up to no good. And here's poor Lana, oh my God! I just can't imagine how uncomfortable and how difficult of a situation that was for him. And I love Tyler, how he played the part, because it's just I can't, Lana, and you could just see the emotional strife that it hurt him to have to do that. I really liked it, because it does build up to, I think it leads to the decision, like from that point forward, he was contemplating and thinking about it. Like, I need to tell her? I need to tell her, and it leads into a scene we're going to talk about later, which is my favorite scene too. But I don't know, I liked it.
Yeah, I think they were building some of the relationship that we haven't seen. I mean, we've seen them talk. We've seen them, him offering her advice. We've seen the excitement of him being there for the campaign and that kind of stuff. But we haven't seen. We know from other media of their relationship and their friendship growing up. But we haven't seen that on screen. And so they've got to, build that in for people who haven't had those other medias and the other things. So it could be a little manufactured, but I think as far as stuff goes in the terms of an Arrowverse, it's not too bad as far as some things go. Manufacturing stuff. So.
That is true.
Yeah.
But Bizarro Jon captures Lana and sets a trap for Superman at the meatpacking plant. And this was very interesting because, I got the whole point of the trap for Superman, but I didn't think about it really at first that he's doing two. He's setting up the merging of the two Lanas. So somehow her having the pendant called the other Lana, I don't know, but it's a double trap, so it was an interesting setup.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Okay, so maybe as you guys talk through this will help, because I think I was just struggling with the motivation here. I mean, I understand the point of it, of what he was doing. I mean, first of all, he needs Lana to call Bizarro Lana, because I guess once the pendant is attached to her, he can speak to the other Lana or something, some sort of a magical pseudo science or whatever. And so he does that so that to tell her to come through the portal so that she can merge and start her process or whatever. And then he sets up this very elaborate trap to take out Superman. And I enjoyed all the scenes. I liked everything that it set up. It seemed really elaborate and maybe a little contrived, but I don't know. It seemed it seemed kind of like a lot. I feel is what is happening to me this episode. It's good, but I don't know.
I don't know. I just thought it was cool. This was his way. He had to capture this Lana to get the other Lana over here and merge, and then there's two of them that'll be merged on this side. It's like he's just slowly building the army or whatever you would say.
Yeah.
But the trap was cool. I mean, he set up. I mean, it was just a massive tank of gas bomb kind of thing. You wouldn't really think that would hurt Superman too much, but the thing is when it blew up, it had kryptonite shards in it, so that also helped. That whole sequence I thought was really, really cool. I mean, the explosion, the Superman standing with his back to it, and he's protecting Lana, and the explode, and you just see him absorb the whole thing. I mean, that was another cool Superman moment. Every episode we get these one big moments where it just displays his power and why he is called Superman. And I just thought it was really, really cool. And then it leads to, to the kryptonite and stuff that's stuck in him, and that whole sequence I just really, really appreciated. But I was fine. I was fine with it. Jonathan set it up. He's a teenager, so this is what he's thinking is going to work. We got to remember that. He's just a kid, too, so he's,
that's true.
Doing a plot that he thinks is going to work, and it almost does.
I mean, it did. Yeah. I mean, basically, he just didn't count on the fact that Lana would be able to get all the kryptonite out of him, I guess.
Yeah. He probably thought the explosion would. Well, no, I guess he wouldn't want to take her out because she was there for the other Lana. But
no, I mean, I guess he. But the interesting thing is he is sharp enough to realize Clark refused the inhalers, the kryptonite inhalers on his world.
Yeah.
And then he's putting together that the kryptonite is opposite on the different worlds, so that it would be harmful to Clark instead of powering him up.
Yeah.
And so it's he's sharp enough to kind of realize that. And like I said, he's gonna basically he is delaying Superman so he can go merge. I mean, that's his whole point. And so,
right,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, if he can at least, because we've seen that a little bit of kryptonite doesn't kill Superman; it just slows him right down. So that's a good way you describe it there. It's delaying him, giving him enough time to get done what he needs to do with Mr. Non-Power Jonathan.
Yeah, and so, of course, Clark protects, and then you get this whole scene of Lana having to pick out the kryptonite out of Superman and get it done in time because Bizarro has flown to the farm, and we see this fight sequence between Jordan and Bizarro Jon, and this was really, really cool.
I love that. Was tension. That was edge of your seat. Is she gonna do it? Is she even gonna be like, get the kryptonite out? Can't she do it fast enough? Oh my God! Hurry up! He's got to get there. He's got to get to the farm. And she's shaking and she's trying to pluck him out. It was so good. It was such a high energy, high tension sequence, and I loved it. The only thing I was asking is, why didn't you take the big one out first? Why do all the little ones? The big one is doing the most damage. But I don't know.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, shouldn't you take the bigger one out first? But I guess maybe she had to like psych herself up to do that. Maybe.
Yeah.
It can't be
plot device.
Easy to like pick stuff out of someone.
Yeah. No, well, it'd be like, one of us pulling a knife out of each other that's jabbed right through your chest. Like, ooh, I can't imagine.
Yeah. But I loved also like the Superboy versus Superboy scenes. I just thought they were well done, and I liked how Jordan essentially like takes a beatdown to let Jor-El wear himself out. I thought that was actually a really smart play once I finally figured out like caught on to what he was doing.
I was like, what's he doing? Oh
yeah.
As I hear the Rocky theme playing in the background, that was a page read out of Rocky Balboa's book.
That's true. That's true.
And I thought of something while we were all talking there. Maybe that's why our Jonathan was in some discomfort from the merge, because he's not powered up. So he's merging with a superpowered version of himself. Maybe that's why it wasn't maybe perfectly manageable or a perfect match, that it hurt him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was just curious about that. I mean, there's definitely big differences between the two of them. Whereas like Allie, the two Allies, it's not like one of them is got powers. I don't know. It's really interesting. We'll see if they explain that or if they talk about it at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I love those in the air fight sequences and punches and everything. So
I mean, they made it look good. Sometimes it looked a little bit cheesy in one of the last episodes with Tauro and what's his name, Anderson. There's a couple moments when they decided they would fly back down, and they just had this kind of cheesy. None of them knew how to be in a good superhero flying pose, so it looked really cheesy. This episode, everything looked good. Nothing was off. It looked just really cool, and I also liked the moment too. We didn't even think to mention when Jordan. That's the first time he actually flies.
Yeah.
And he's up there, and then he's up in the clouds, and he realizes, what the heck? And he starts to drop. It's like as soon as he thought about it, then he lost the ability.
Yeah, overthinking.
And starts. I mean, that would be scary. I've had dreams like that before, where I step off out of a plane door for some reason, and I'm just out in the open sky, and you get that moment of, oh crap, and now you're falling. Like that's
literally my worst fear in the entire world.
Is falling?
Yes. I'm not necessarily afraid of the height. It's the falling from the height that terrifies me.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's a hard landing. That's for sure.
Right. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to have falling nightmares tonight.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Kents.
All right. I thought that this B plot with Lois and Jordan was actually kind of an interesting undertone to the episode. I liked her advice to write everything out and put it in a letter. It's a little old school, but I kind of agree. It can help you process things. I mean, like, I've definitely done that to process things. I've written out a few emails I've never sent just to get things off my chest. I mean, I've never really been a journaler, just because I feel like that's a little bit too easy for people to find, for people to read, for people to misunderstand. And an email you never send, you just very conveniently delete it. Done, gone.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, we've all done it. I think we're all at least on the back end of that age group where, you used to write things before emails. We were all alive before emails came out, so. We know that there's there. We used to pass notes in school, the cute girls or boys or whatever.
Yes.
That there is that old-fashioned aesthetic to it. It's just funny how Jordan reacted to the idea because, that generation now, the ones younger than us, they don't know. They basically hardly even know what a pen and paper is. Everything is digital these days.
Yeah.
I mean, they're complaining about learning how to write. What do you mean write? What do you mean sign my signature? I just have to click. It's so funny to see the kids nowadays, they really don't understand writing and penmanship and why that's important to have. Instead, when you watch them try to write something, it's chicken scratch. It's ridiculous. Kids don't know how to write or print properly these days. So it was just funny to watch Jordan react to that and get it all out. And it's totally fine. It's a good idea. I'm with you, Jess.
Yeah,
I've written tons of emails and letters and things to just get things off. Sometimes it's a good diffusing thing to bring your emotions down a bit.
Yes.
Yeah. I know for a long time I did do some journaling, but at the close of the day, just to close my mind out so that I was not sitting there and dwelling on things and that kind of stuff. So writing can be therapeutic. So yeah,
there's definitely something about getting it out and getting it somewhere so that it's leaving your body, you know what I mean? You can let it go. Anyway, I was
gone are the days. Do you remember writing so much that the muscles in your hands hurt?
Yeah, that actually
Kids
still
will never
happens
know
to
that.
me.
Getting a callus
Yes.
on your finger. Yeah.
Kids today will never know what that feels like.
Yeah.
That's probably true, and that is a little sad.
They have texting thumbs now.
They're going to have arthritis in their thumbs by the time they're 20.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Yep. And they're all going to have a hunchback in their back of their neck. They're all going to have this.
They're all staring down. I know, as I'm telling myself I need to correct my own posture.
Yeah.
As we all sit up in our chairs a little straighter.
Yeah.
I was surprised, though. Let's go back to Superman and Lois, that he was going to give Sarah the letter. Although that's because I was expecting it to be this crazy declaration of love, not him totally spilling the beans on his secret. I'm actually surprised he told Lois to read it.
Yeah, because he basically went against her, against all their rules and everything they've been told. He was going to tell Sarah outright without anybody knowing.
Yep.
Without knowing the consequences of that. So.
No, I think he knows the consequences.
Yeah. Even though the teen angst here was high, I respect he and Lois's relationship, and writing everything out. He knew that he had to be honest with Sarah, but as much as he wants the truth and to be open with her, he also knows deep down that it's bigger than him, and that's why he let his mom read it. Now, we can get into the arguments there, but I think truly deep down he was to the point, that where they had talked about relationship and openness, and that's the big theme of this episode. The truth and what's the consequences of those things going to be. I think. Yeah. Him, opening up and saying, go ahead and read it, is him wanting that validation to say it's time.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And the other thing I agree with you, Jeff, where you're feeling a little bit of this angst, that there is a couple parts that bugged me, is even though all this was happening, even though he was in agreement or whatever, it was still just listening to him that basically their world is blowing up right now, and the only thing he cares about is, Mom, why did you talk to Sarah? I wanted to smack him at that point. I was like, shut up, Jordan. Come on, really? With what is going on now, you cannot put your crap aside and just be there for your family. your dad and your evil brother that's coming to kill everybody. Like, really, that to me was just a little too far. I don't know if any teenager would be that dumb or that self-centered to not understand what's going on. I mean, the world
Every
was blowing
teenager
up,
is that dumb and self-centered.
Trust me, I work in a middle school, man.
Yeah, well, I know we all were, but I'm just saying at that point, his reactions should have come earlier. At that point, like I said, their family was blowing up. Like his brother's almost dying. Superman's coming. Like there was so much going on that I think he should have been able to get past it by that point. They should have put that little difficult part a little earlier in the episode because it just didn't fit with what was going on. I'm like, come on, Jordan. This is ridiculous. I would have smacked him.
I just love Lois's facial expressions. I'm gonna say this again because it's part of my favorite scene, but just the look on her face where she's just like, she's like so exasperated. It just is perfection.
Yeah. She's showing what I'm trying to say, so there you go.
It was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go back here. So I wanted to bring this up, and I actually think we bring this up twice in our notes, so I won't go too deep on it, but I just liked that they confirmed that Clark was gone for 33 days and that time in Bizarro World either passes differently or the void between the worlds does, as we speculated last week.
Yeah, now I think it's the void. Traveling through the void is where they lose time. I think time passes the same on both worlds. It's just that void is where you lose time. As you're traveling through it, it might seem like an instant, but you lose time going through it. So when he got there, or, when he got there, it seemed like the same day to him, but time had passed. I think it's the void. I don't think time moves at different pace on each world. I think it's the void in the middle.
Yeah, yes and no, because of the technology and some of the other stuff going on in their world where they're using older technology and things tend to be a little bit different. But honestly, I don't want to dig into it too much because things will stop making sense if it's actually that world is behind, because like, how are the people the same age and da-da-da-da-da. So I think there's some time difference between, and maybe the void adds to it, but I don't think it's just the void. But we'll see.
Well,
we'll see.
On that point, it could be. You remember way back when in Flash when they introduced Earth 2. Earth 2 was behind us. They were in the same timeline, same year, but all their technology, everything, their aesthetic, their architecture, everything was from the 50s and 60s looking. But yet their electronic technology was equal to ours. So it just like their world just developed at a different pace with, in regards to life to where they are. So maybe that's what that world is. Maybe they're just, things are just evolving differently there. But again, I just think it's the void itself. Like you're traveling from one universe, one realm or whatever dimension to the other. So when you travel through that gap, you lose. There's something going on there where you're as you're traveling away. Because if you try to think about science, Harley, maybe you can step in here. Like when you get towards a black hole, time slows down.
Indeed, it does.
And when you travel if we travel fast enough and far enough, the Earth, to us it'll be the same day, but the Earth will have, had months or weeks gone by already. And that's why when you look up in the night sky and you look at the stars, you're not looking at the star today. You're looking at the star's light from, a million years ago, because it's taken a million years for that light to get to us. So that star could be long gone. So that's what I'm trying to get at here. I'm wondering if that void is
trillions.
Yeah. So that's what I'm wondering about, if that void is that kind of it's like space. It's just that gap of time. The farther you get away from it, the more time passes from the point you left than from the point that you're at.
I definitely have questions about this void.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I can't put a pinpoint to it. Like, I think the void plays into it, but then, I don't know, I'm kind of with Jeff. I don't want to, think too deeply, but I feel like there's something else with time on the Bizarro world, too. So, I don't know. I kind of hope they give us more of an answer, just because that, science, time travel type of nerd in me, needs that answer, even though it literally has nothing to do with the show. I just want them to create an answer to satisfy me.
Well, and that's what we love diving into about this story. I love it. I would love to figure it out. But I think it's going to come up later in the notes. But I love that whatchamacallit, Natalie and
we'll get there.
Daddy Iron, they were talking about that portal's like the one that I came through. I love that they discussed that. So we'll get to that.
Yes,
later.
We can talk about this more because there's more points when we get to them for sure. So let's just close out this section. Now I definitely got some echoes of the Bizarro family dynamic. So we kind of get that dynamic that Cal and John L have. I got those same vibes in these scenes that we had between Clark and John Kent. Now they're completely different situations, and the root cause of the problem is kind of the same though, like because they both are perceiving, like both Johns are saying that like Cal/Clark is the one who's being selfish. He's trying to protect himself. Like for Cal, it's kind of like always like the fame comes first, and it's like the duty of the job. But like in the fact that he has to like live up to this ridiculously high standard and like, you know, all the pressures of fame and living in the spotlight and all that. And then for Clark, the secret always comes first. But either way, it's their duty. It's their thing that they have to protect. That's what the Johns are perceiving come first.
Yeah, and I thought this was really powerful because the fact that you see Clark wanting to build up his relationship with John and not let it slip because he's seen what's happened on Bizarro World. And so he's starting to question his thoughts and his, you know, his driving force, and he relies on his family for that support. I really love it because he has gotten a different perspective because of his time over there, and it's changing how he's living his life here. And I just like that, you know, he makes a point of sitting down and trying to connect with John there on the couch in that one scene. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm with you. It was very powerful. It was such an excellent parallel to show us that even though these seem very, very different, they're struggling from very similar family troubles, and it is all centered around Clark and Kal-El. They're the focal point of all of it. And how does their family deal with their dad being Superman? And both families have different exposure to that, and they've grown their family to to deal with it in different ways. But the heart of the matter is still the same. It's Superman. Our dad is Superman. My husband is Superman. How do we live with that? And the struggle is exactly the same. So it is a really powerful point to have to really dig into and show us that it's actually not as different as you think.
No.
Yeah, and I think it's a big point of who raised. We have no clue who raised that, the Bizarro Kal-El.
True.
And we know who raised him on this world, and the difference between that of like it makes a huge difference in that family dynamic where maybe in that world all he had was his brother, and he didn't have that the family dynamic, and using that as a strengthening, and our Clark relying on those family values, but yet being able to adapt and depend on his family too, of you got to keep the secret, but what's best for the family comes first. And so I love the contrast. I mean, it's just so good.
That was almost that there's a sequence in there that was almost my favorite scene, but I didn't go with it. But still good stuff.
It is lots of good stuff for sure.
All right, moving on to Lana and Sarah. And this is, we get a kind of fun little scene where they're packing up the stuff to move to Lana's office in City Hall. And Kyle and Lana have agreed to let Sarah drive the car that they've been fixing up. And, I liked giving that freedom and that responsibility there, and, of how that that kind of let off there.
Well, we've all had that moment, right? Like, we all had that moment of getting to
yeah.
drive our parents' car the first time. Like, they're trusting you to drive it on your own the first time. So we understand. Like, it's a fun feeling, and you could really feel for Sarah just getting that moment. But what I really liked is that was an old 1980s Firebird. It's like my favorite car from that era is the old Pontiac Firebirds, and she gets to drive one. I wasn't old enough to drive yet when those cars were out on the street, so I was like, oh, I want one. Come on.
Nice.
Yeah. And I did love the conversation that the two of them have about the Kent men having a not present side to them, and them not understanding that, for very good reasons. But it was very interesting to hear them kind of compare notes there.
Yeah, I liked that. Especially that they took the time to draw the parallels between Clark and Jordan being distracted. So I'm just wondering if this is gonna ultimately set up Jordan telling Sarah his secret after all, or maybe even just Lana guessing Jordan's secret after all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lana, you mean Sarah? Or do you think
Lana
Lana would...
Now that Lana knows, I wonder if she'll draw the parallel between the way Jordan's acting and the way Clark has always acted. You know what I mean?
That's actually a good point, because she probably, if Sarah doesn't figure it out or whatever, like, maybe Lana will take her aside and talk to her.
How would Sarah figure that out if she doesn't know?
Yeah, and maybe Lana will talk to Clark after and say, like, maybe we should include our entire families on this, so that because we know that everybody knows that the trouble Sarah and Jordan are going through, so it might just help them out.
Yeah, it's like it is part of the reason of lack of communication, because he's trying to keep his dad's secret.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's
part of it. You're getting closer.
But we do get this interesting scene where Sarah is stopped by Bizarro Jon, and he's not even playing it off with secret identities. He's like, no, I just landed.
Yeah, she did.
What?
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Why are you talking so strangely?
She's just done. Yeah.
It's funny. Like, she didn't even clue in. She just thought she was just like, what's with the outfit? Like, she didn't really think anything of it, really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But this is where Bizarro Jon goes in and knocks out Lana to go kidnap her.
Oh, man.
And
that actually was a tough thing, because I wasn't sure what he's going to do. I thought, is he just going to grab her? Is he just going to talk to her? What's he going to do there? And he hits her so hard and sends her flying. I'm like, holy crap, is he going to kill her? Like, at that moment, I thought maybe he's just going to kill everybody close to Clark one by one as some way to get at him. That's what I kind of thought was going on at first. Like, the whole kidnap plot to swap the other Lana, I just didn't even hit my mind at that moment. I thought, he's going to kill her.
Yeah, I thought that too at first, yeah.
Yeah, and I was wondering, did he think that she had powers
so she could handle the shot?
Oh.
And he was being more violent than he probably would have been, because he's expecting his version.
That's true.
That's
true, because he might not know who's got
point.
powers or not. Yeah. Actually, that makes sense, because when he was at the farm and Jordan comes out to face him, he says something along those lines. He says, "Oh, you're the one with the power." So that surprised him.
Yeah. The weak ones here have the power.
Yeah. So he didn't know up until that point. Yeah.
So, but we get an interesting little scene of City Hall and everybody excited and expecting Lana, and this kind of leads into my favorite scene, so we won't talk a whole lot about it here, but we get Lois talking with Sarah about her high school rebellion and dating life. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, but that was just a blast to kind of see Sarah's kind of double take there. So
that was fun.
Yeah, we'll come back to that for sure.
So, basically we get this, Sarah's running home, sees the damage, and lets the Kents know that Lana has been taken, and this sets off them looking for Lana, and Clark doing the sweeps, and them having to find out about everything, and gets into the kidnapping, which we talked about earlier, but it really sets things off.
Yeah, because at that point nobody really knew anything was wrong other than what they were dealing with. But as soon as Sarah shows up at her house and they're like, "Where's my mom? Like, what's going on?" Then all the red warning signs went off. Like, oh crap, okay, she's in trouble, and they still couldn't tell Sarah anything. It's like,
No.
Exactly, and that's the thing is like. This is where Lois starts to kind of start feeling like a little icky, and she's like, I can't tell her anything. Like, I have to lie to her, even though I know what's going on. And she's like, this just felt so wrong on so many levels, and it starts to set up a lot of things about why are they keeping this secret. And I think the ironic thing is even though they had set up all these rules for a reason, they kept this all a secret for a reason, so that everybody they could have a family, they could have a normal life. And Lana actually does get that. And so, she understands, why keeping Superman a secret and his mission secret is important. And, I liked the scene, at the end of all the kidnapping and all the stuff when Superman is bringing her home and he says he can't ask her to lie for him. And she says, it's not for you, it's for the Kents. Because obviously she doesn't know it's Clark then, but she knows that it's a version of John that's running around. And she immediately understands the type of fallout that they're going to have to deal with. And I think it's all just because of her own family's experiences, the Morgan Edge fallout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I love Lana. They really developed her to be such a good character. She's such a solid, not just community member, but such a solid friend. Whether it's a friend of the family or Clark's friend or the friendship she's developed with Lois, she is just a true to heart, really good human being.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it because it's for Clark more than anyone, but she, like you said, she's gone through so much, and she does not want that to happen to the Kent family, of all the stuff that they went through because of Morgan Edge, and just try, and that's what makes her that good friend, that good person, that good mayor, is she's seeing the opposite, and she wants to protect other people from that, and so I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I just wrote as my next note the super reveal. I know it's someone's favorite scene, so I don't know if we want to dig into all of this or how we want to handle this.
Let's just lightly dance around it for this moment.
I loved it. I mean, I talked about it in my opening rating, so I don't have much more to say until the scene. So, Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I just really appreciated it because, like I said in the beginning, it stops the infatuation with Superman, but I really appreciate it because I think it opens a door for deeper friendships with Clark and with Lois. I mean, we've seen the beginning of the relationship with Lois, and throughout these 2 seasons of that friendship, and I'm excited to see where that goes now that barrier has been taken out between her and Lois, that they can actually talk about things without that barrier being there.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I'll save my thoughts on that when we get to the favorite scenes. But what I like about, well, not so much but what I want to bring in discussion here is you've brought up a couple times that Lana had this infatuation developing for Superman, and I want to kind of play on that a bit more, because I think it's not so much she was maybe falling for him there, because she's still not. I don't know if she's considering herself single, ready for dating yet, but I have this feeling that there's that hint. She didn't understand it, she didn't know it yet, but there's this hint of something familiar with Superman that made her feel comfortable in understanding. She's got this long history with Clark, and they had a thing in high school and all that stuff. So I feel like there was an underlying reminder of that her emotions were picking up on, that Superman is making me feel that way again. And I think it's just she was just because her and Superman never really got to develop a relationship, but here he is in little old Smallville, saving her, talking to her, sharing things with her, and I think that's the infatuation, and she's just like, wow, Superman's an actual person. I can talk to him. He's sharing things with me. Like, it's more of like a, wow, that's cool. I can consider Superman a friend now. I wonder if that's kind of what her infatuation was. I wasn't picking so much up on a romantic vibe there. Just I don't know if that makes sense, what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I see your point. I can see both points, but yeah, that's good because I didn't consider that before.
I agree. I can kind of see it both ways.
Yeah,
for sure. Cool. I'm definitely glad that there is no question of them trying to take Lana down the road of, quote, falling for Superman. So I'm glad that that's just completely off the table. We nipped that in the bud. Yay.
Yeah. That's some CW drama we don't need on the show.
No. All right, so let's close out the notes and talk about the Irons family. And Lois calls in John Henry to help with the tech to stop Bizarro Jon. And I think this is an interesting way of keeping him involved. And it was neat to see him working on the tech. But you can see, honestly, that he needs Nat's help. And you kind of get into their relationship and their back and forth here because she is afraid that the same thing that happened on her Earth is going to happen here. And just the anxiety of, okay, is this going to happen to me again? You know, what we've gone through, am I going to lose my dad this time? And so, you know, I like the way they bring it in. Yeah, it was a little angsty, but yeah, I like that how she's like, you know, just wanting to be there for her dad too. So
let me see if I can explain this here that you guys get me. This is the part of the episode that I felt was weird or weak or didn't fit with this episode, because we haven't had John Henry, we haven't had the Irons involved in so many of these episodes, and yet they're living in a garage in Smallville. Why aren't they around more? Why aren't they involved with everything that's going on? With all this stuff that's happening, I would expect that they would have been there and involved with it and helping them out along the way. And instead of Lois coming to them, and it's like they almost don't even know that anything's changed or anything's going on. It's like they did. It just felt weird. They should have been organically part of every single episode to make this part feel more natural, that she's going to them for help. It's just weird to me that they're living in a garage in downtown Smallville and they haven't been part of anything. It's weird. There's just something about that weakened this element for me.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't really necessarily get that because I feel like they are always kind of around, although they're not necessarily heavily ingrained in every episode. But I mean, we saw him. I mean, he was kind of going through the paces, like playing Superman. I mean, being Steel. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they had just gotten busy in their own lives for that part.
Yeah, and I think too that, you know, we're looking at the Bizarro versions of everybody, and while there was a John Henry on our Earth who died, you kind of assume that one on Bizarro version did as well. So there's not like, you know,
there's no counterpart.
You know, yeah, there's no counterpart for them to kind of play off as which they've been doing the last couple episodes. So they're the odd people out, you know, the rogue faction there. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I just want to go back to this point real quick about just Natalie and just how afraid she is of everything happening. I mean, I kind of felt bad for her because everything that she went through was still like so raw. I feel like her dad has had more time to process everything. Like, he has had more time on this earth to put his own past behind him. But I mean, I do agree with him that spiraling won't really help. And so eventually we'll see, she'll just kind of need to take matters into her own hands and come up with a solution here.
I don't know. I didn't feel for her. I feel like she's being a little bit too immature here. Like, she's older than she's acting, and that kind of bugged me. She was a little bit annoying. Just her reactions to things. Like, you're 15 and you're reacting like you're 10 or 11, and it's like, come on, grow up a little bit here.
I guess. I don't know. Yeah. It can't be easy to lose everyone you know.
Yeah, I can't say I've experienced that before, but kind of. I mean, I'm the only one that's left for me, so in a sense, I do kind of know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is fun to get to see them working on this device of, that's going to try to help Jon and capture Bizarro Jon. And basically it just gives the town a brownout because, like, it's drawing too much power. And they're like, we're going to need something else to power it. And so I guess we find out that John Henry's been using XK to power his suit.
Convenient.
Yeah, so that part was fun, for sure. I like that. I like seeing what was going on with them there.
Yeah.
I
was glad they had a solve and a fix for it.
Yeah. So we get them to the mines, and here's where the interesting things come back about the portal, because they're looking at the portal and talking about the negative zone between the two worlds, and John Henry's talking about what Clark has said, like there's no time there and things like that, and Nat remarks about it's like where she was stuck, and so I kind of called it from the previous week is it's similar to, if not maybe not the same, but it's a similar barrier between worlds where there's it can be hard to get out of, and there's time differences in there too. So
and we were questioning that over the last few episodes. We've been talking about that, and they actually hit this nail right on the head and tried to explain it by saying, guess what, we realized we've got two different portals of two different types. We got an Earth that's been split in half that has a dimensional portal between it, and we've got two separate worlds from two different universes with a portal in between it, and yet they're kind of the same thing. And it's like, wait a second, I'm scratching my head even more. Because that doesn't really explain it, but it's cool that it seems related somehow and that they acknowledge that. I just don't know if these writers are going to be able to explain the difference, or if they're going to somehow tell us that it is all the same. I don't know. That's crazy to me, because I'm trying to remember when Flash kept going over to Earth 2, they were just opening a dimensional door in Star Labs there. They didn't have to fly through space and fly through this emptiness to get there. It was just a doorway that they went through. So this is all new and different, right? So
it is.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be at least, maybe it's a difference because of Crisis, that this is, the kind of the barriers between things now after Crisis. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Crisis could have changed things. I mean, I do think it is similar. I mean, the way that they're describing both things is that they're essentially like different dimensions. They're just different like types of dimensions. So like the shadow world, the Bizarro world, is like a mirror dimension of us. Everything is the opposite or backwards or however you want to look at that. Whereas like where John Henry and Natalie are from is one of those whereas everyone is
multiverse.
Whereas like everyone is like
it's
kind of the same, but they've taken different paths along their life. And so I don't know, I can kind of see how they're similar yet still different, because the Bizarro dimension and our dimension are meant to be one.
Yeah, that's where it's weird.
Yeah.
Well,
sort of.
We hear that, but we hear that from people who are invested in that lore, and maybe that's their way of explaining it. Maybe that's how they think things should have been, that there were two worlds and they were divided. Maybe that's, they're unreliable narrators because they don't know the full story. I don't know.
That's a fair one, too.
Well, it's the way I'm trying to think of it is, before the split, there was one world, and it got basically, so you got one world, and then it got pulled apart and split in two halves, two mirrors of each other. But once they got split, they now became their own wholes.
Yeah.
And they've gone on to evolve as their own wholes. So there is no putting them back together, because earlier on in the season we were talking about, are these two halves? I mean, the characters themselves are saying we're only half, we got to be put together so we can be whole again, and that's what led us to think, okay, it's two half worlds. But it seems like the worlds have become whole on their own. It's like if you think of science again, biology, you go down to the microscopic level. When a single cell organism splits in two, it's not half and a half, it splits, and that new part becomes its own cell, its own organism. So maybe that's what has happened here, and that's the easiest way to try to visualize it and have you understand it. I don't know.
I think that's a great explanation. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, that's
I
a
agree
good
with
one.
you. I don't think any longer that they're the two halves, and I think the merging, I think there's more to it, and I think that's what we're going to get in the last 4 episodes when we figure out what's happened to Allie and why does she want, to merge, and like what kind of like power this creates. And maybe you're right, like maybe we did start out as one and we got split apart, but once we were split apart, everybody seemed to be doing just fine. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that's a really good way to explain it too.
Well, good. I scienced my way out of that one.
Good work. I'm very proud.
The one thing that I feel funny about the scene, though, is that it's funny that Jon and Natalie they just happen to go to the cave where the portal is. That's the only spot to get XK. And they're just nonchalantly, let's just drop our gear, get down on our knees, just start cutting and digging. Like, do you not realize where you are? You're in this extremely dangerous section right now, and you have no idea what's going to come through, what's going to go on, or what might pull you through. And they're just, let's just go about our... Like, it felt weird. I'm like, there's got to be another cave. There's got to be another area that has XK for you to go into it. It just... And the fact that it's also just open, like, it seems like it's public access. Anyone could... You'd think that whole thing would be sealed off by now by the government, by somebody. Like, you can't just freely wander in there to where there's a portal to another world. Like...
Look, I agree with you. I thought it was a little oddly convenient that they would be mining XK right by the portal.
Right.
Although I can hand wave away how they got in there, just because I feel like John Henry would truly be like that crafty, and he would know a way in that was like secret and like evading.
Or Sam said, okay,
that's true.
John Henry has access.
True.
That's
Because Sam's back in charge now.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. But I agree. I was like, do they really have to mine the XK like right by the portal? Like, we know it's other places.
Everywhere.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
But we needed that plot point, so here we are.
Yeah. Here we are at the next point. Exactly.
Yeah.
Ruined my transition.
It was perfect.
That's why you ruined it.
So Bizarro Lana comes out of the portal and attacks both of them. And John Henry quickly learns that red solar flare, his red solar flare is not effective on the Bizarros. It's not going to take them down. It's going to power them back up.
At first I thought it was kryptonite, and I was like, that wasn't green, was it?
No.
Yeah. Then when I saw it the second time, I was like, oh, I see it now. Okay.
Yeah, and now we get the beatdown between her taking them both down and then really starting to go after him. So
I don't know how he survived that. She's a superpowered being, and she's slamming him head first off the walls of the tunnel. He should be knocked out cold and in a coma after. I don't know how he survived that, because he wasn't in his
or
suit.
A bloody mess, like a beat.
Like he came out of that too cleanly. That she was not treating him nicely there.
No, I agree. I was very surprised that he survived that. I mean, I'm glad because I like the character and I want to see more of him, and I don't want him to die, especially not like that. But I was like, I probably should have chosen a slightly different confrontation. Although they did make a very big point of like showing his head. So I think the whole head trauma thing is about to come back into play.
Unless she just fixed it for him.
Who? What?
Unless by her hitting his head so hard it fixed his problems and he's not going to have any memory loss.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it really works that way. I know, like, some people say, my husband is a big proponent of the theory that if you just bang on it hard enough, it'll start working again. I don't think that works with the human brain. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No. But thank goodness we've got Nat coming to the rescue, stabbing Lana in the back with the XK, and evidently she flees back into the portal to the Bizarro world. I'd kind of missed that until the explanation later on. I was like, okay. She's not just... Because I'm expecting her to show up,
Me too.
you know, and go after our Lana, so...
I was too.
Yeah, and
I was surprised when she went back through. That drop, that whole scene felt weird. I was like, wait, how did he know that? And why is he telling them this way in this manner? Anyway, that felt out of place to me.
Well, and the fact that she can just travel back and forth, same with Bizarro Jon. Well, I guess he came through with the pendants, but how can she travel back and forth when we saw our Superman needed to protect himself with all the rocks and diamonds and stuff to make it through, and she's just able to jump back and forth that easily without anything?
I still think he just kind of flew through. I think he was just getting momentum to like overcome the gravitational whatever.
Even if it was just that, she didn't do that in either time.
Not that we saw,
so
I guess.
We're missing. There's some incontinuity issues here.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's not taken away from the episode from it. We're discussing it. I mean, I still gave it a 9.5. I don't care. The stuff was so dang good. I loved it all. It's just these little points when we actually get to them. I'm like,
it's fun to
wait
discuss.
a second. Yeah, there is some hit misses here.
Yeah, there were definitely a few things that didn't work for me either. So it's interesting that we've all had different things throughout this episode that didn't work, though. Usually we agree on the things, but we're kind of all over the board today.
But we came to the same point in the end, so that's okay.
We did. But let's see. So my final point here, I don't understand. Like, John Henry kind of like never learns. I feel like he's definitely still keeping Natalie in the dark, although I guess he's got this plan to somehow shut down the portal, which I'm like, how are you gonna do that? So I'm curious to see what his plan is, but I don't like that he's still shutting Natalie out.
Is that a protection thing? I don't know.
I mean, yes, but she's shown that she's clearly capable. I mean, we know she's more than mechanically capable, and she's incredibly talented and incredibly smart. So, I mean, I understand, like, he's trying to protect her, but he also saw that she was capable of not only protecting herself, but protecting him. So, I think that's why it still, like, bothers me a little. I'm like, can we move, like, past this, like, keeping her in the dark? It just feels like the whole Oliver Queen or Barry Allen, I'm just going to keep keeping a secret for 8 seasons to keep the damn secret. Like, come on, just learn, just evolve. But I guess if that leads to the reveal of her working on her own suit, is that what I saw? Are we agreeing there?
Yeah. It kind of seems like that she's got something going.
Is it a suit of hers? Is it a new upgraded version of his suit? It's hard to say.
So the only thing she was missing was a power source. I kind of felt like it was hers.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Is there a character in the comics we know of that she would play wearing her own suit?
Well, she actually
She's
plays Steel
Okay.
in.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, doesn't she take his place, or does she takes his place? Either takes his place, or maybe she becomes it instead of him. I can't remember which it is. I haven't read the comics.
Yeah.
But.
Interesting.
Yeah, me neither. So.
Well, on that note, that takes us to our favorite scenes, and I'm actually kind of excited for these ones because I looked at what you guys picked. I was like, "Oh, you guys picked good scenes." Okay, cool. And you didn't take the one I took, so I was like, "Wow, this is going to be a threefer of powerful moments." So here we go into favorite scenes.
Shape out an eagle!
And X-Force is up first.
I call this one Lois's Wild Pass, so let's take a listen.
Hey, Sarah, is your mom around?
No, but she'll be here soon.
Do you mind if I wait here?
No, yeah, go ahead. I was thinking about going to grab some coffees. Do you want one?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay.
I heard about you and Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of complicated.
I know he's been unpredictable lately, and I'm sorry about that.
No, it's not your fault. He's okay, though, right? I mean, there's not something else going on I don't know about?
We've just been dealing with some family stuff lately.
It seems like every family in Smallville's going through something, so...
That's probably true. And I just wanted to say how impressed I am with how well you've been handling everything. You're way more mature than I was at that age.
Thanks, but that really doesn't seem possible.
You have no idea. When I was 15, every guy I dated was just me trying to piss off my dad, and I was really good at pissing off my dad.
Seriously?
Yeah, there was this one guy, Dave, he was spectacularly awful. He was in this Primus cover band.
Oh, what's Primus?
A band no other band should ever cover. I still haven't told Clark about him. Or any other guy I dated in high school, actually.
Wow, that kind of sounds crazy coming from you.
Anyway, the older you get, the more you realize everyone is dealing with something.
Yeah. Speaking of, what's going on with Jonathan?
What do you mean?
Well, when I saw him earlier, it looked like he was going to a rave out in the Matrix.
Where did you see him?
Walking on my street as I pulled out, it looked like he was going to Candace's.
Tell your mom I dropped by. I have to go.
Okay.
Yeah. I really like that Lois kind of shares her history here, and I like it because it gives us more insight into who she was and how her life has changed. Plus, it also shows the respect that she has for Sarah and the adversity that she's facing. So I liked it for a lot of different reasons. But, it was very character-driven of getting to know Lois better and just getting to see how she feels about Sarah.
Well, I have a question. Was this the first one-on-one scene with Lois and Sarah in this entire show so far? I have a feeling this was their first one where it's just them two.
Yeah, that we've seen on screen. I think so. Yeah.
I think so.
It was good. It's nice they got to have that.
Yeah. I agree. I thought it was a fantastic scene. Like, I loved all of the little elements to it, and like Mitzi's delivery, and then just like the shift. As soon as she's like, and John was going to a rave out in the Matrix, which is a brilliant line, by the way. Like, loved that description. I was like, that is so spot on. I love it. But she's just like, wait, what? And it's just like total shift. And so I loved her performance. Oh, so good. I love her. She's my favorite Lois. Love her.
Yes.
And what's your favorite scene?
Oh, right. Okay. So, speaking of Lois, my favorite scene, I called this family tension, and this is literally the follow-up scene at the farmhouse.
Here it is.
Clark!
What is it?
I think the other Jonathan has Lana.
Whoa, how do you know that?
Because Sarah said she saw an oddly dressed Jonathan on her street.
Why are you talking to Sarah? Why would you want to take Mrs. Cushing? Because on his Earth, he and Lana worked together for Allie.
So he thinks that Sarah's mom's gonna help him merge?
You said that you saw him last night. Maybe he was trying to get your attention?
Wait, you saw him and you just let him go?
There wasn't anything I could do.
What do you mean? You're Superman. You could have flown over there and stopped him.
Not with Lana there.
Right. Because you gotta keep your precious secret so we can live a normal life. You're serious? Why didn't you say anything to Sarah's mom?
Boys, we are not talking about this right now.
It's literally the entire reason she's in danger.
Okay, Jonathan, I don't have time to stand here and defend the decisions I've made.
Right, because you never think you're wrong.
No, it's because my best friend is in danger.
Okay, well, maybe if you didn't care so much about keeping your secret...
Jonathan, upstairs right now. Clark, go find her. Jordan?
Why were you talking to Sarah?
Oh, I that scene, there's so much tension being built up in that moment. And then he says that, I just want to slap him. But such a good scene.
It's such a great scene, but I feel like you needed that like comedic element at the end of all of that, because it's just building and building and building and building, and you need something to kind of like bring it back down.
No way.
Oh, whatever. And then when you cut to her face at the end, though, where she's just like, like, it was perfect.
Oh, but that moment, though, that was crazy intense. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's the tipping point for everyone, and it's the point that they all have to get to before they can mutually agree that little by little they're going to start divulging the secret, I think, to people that they trust. Lana being the first one, and makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Yes. Which leads into my favorite scene, which I call Best Friends. And I'm so glad you guys left this one for me, because it's the first it's the scene where Clark goes to ask his family's permission to tell Lana about who he is. And they quickly say, he doesn't even get the sentence out, and they're like, yes, go do it. Go do it now. Like, what are you waiting for? And then, so I combined two sequences here because there's a bit of a gap in between there. And then it eventually catches up to him stopping her on the road. And it's just that the whole sequence of how it went was so touching and so powerful. And I'll play the clip and then I'll finish my thoughts on that after. So here it is.
What?
It's nothing. Mrs. Cushing okay?
Just took her home. She's gonna be fine.
Yeah, except now she thinks I'm a kidnapping psychopath.
Actually, I was able to explain how that wasn't really you.
Wait, you told her?
As Superman, Lana still doesn't know who I am.
Right, so your secret's still safe?
It is. But maybe it shouldn't be. Look, John Henry and Nat may have sent Lana's doppelganger back through the portal, but as long as she's still working with Allie, our Lana might not be safe.
What are you saying?
I came back here first because we're a family, and this decision would affect all of us. So, if you're all okay with it.
Absolutely.
Yes. Go.
Oh. Okay then. Wish me luck.
Clark! What are you doing here?
I need to talk to you.
This really isn't a good time.
Lana, there's something I've wanted to tell you my entire life.
How did you even know I was going to be here? You know what? Doesn't even matter.
Lana.
Listen, I do want to hear what you have to say, but I have had the longest day. You've no idea what I've been through.
Yeah, but I do, though, actually.
What?
I was there. Lana, I was with you.
What are you talking about?
Brings a tear to my eye. That is so dang powerful. It's something I've wanted for them as best friends for so long. I think she really should be brought into it at this point for sure, because she's been, like I was saying earlier, she's been such a solid grounding friend for Clark. And now I can't wait to see how she takes it, if she at all will be upset or if she'll fully understand why he kept it a secret, which I'm 99.9% sure she is going to get it and fully understand because of what you guys said about her earlier. But that sequence, that the music when he goes to see his family and there's just that little playful piano playing in the background that kind of leads up to it, and up to them going, yes, go, just get out of here. And then it transitions to him there, and the dramatic music just building up with him struggling to find the words. How do I tell my best friend I've been lying to her for 30 plus years? And her just being so frustrated. I don't have time for this. And like the performances were so opposite and polarizing because they're both in a different emotional state at that moment. But then it just because of the type of friend she is, she's like, I really want to hear what you have to say, but I can't right now. And then he's like, I know, Lana, I was there. And just her complete, when he finally flies up in the sky and just the look on her face like that, her performance just blew me away. Like you could just see everything of 30 plus years wash over her face. Like, oh my God, you're Superman. Like you just saw it hit her. And then Clark, again, Tyler Hoechlin with his performance, the struggle. You know, he wasn't Superman at the moment. He was Clark trying to stumble over his words and tell her the truth, and it was just beautiful. The only thing I didn't like about it was the fact that he flew up in the sky in virtually the exact same way, in the exact same outfit that he did when he revealed it to his boys. I'm like, you already
and
did.
To Lois.
Yeah,
it's the exact same.
That's the only little bit. I think it would have been a lot more fun, a lot more cool if standing on the road with her, they're like 3 feet apart, if he just ripped open his shirt to reveal the Superman logo, then she would have went, what? I think that would have been more fun. But anyway, beautiful, beautiful moment.
Yeah, I like the cinematography, and I love, again, taking it back to earlier in the episode of the conversation between Sarah and Jordan, of him wanting to tell her, wanting to give her the letter, and she's not ready for it because she's worried about her mom. And you have the opposite of effect here with, Lana's not ready for it. And so I love how they're kind of bookending their relationship in those two scenes. But great cinematography. I can, you're sitting there playing it, and I can see it playing out in my mind. They did an amazing job. So
yeah, no, I thought it was a really great scene. It was really powerful. It was something I've been wondering and pushing for a long time. So I'm glad they finally brought Lana in. And I did notice that the scenes were mirrored. The reveal to the boys, the reveal to Lois, and then the reveal to Lana. They're all exactly the same. And I'm kind of okay with that, but I kind of feel like that's also like Clark just not knowing like how else to say it. He's like, I can't.
It,
yeah. He's like, I kind of just have to like show you this transformation, like shatter that glass so that you can see that I am Superman.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I agree with like he has to show them an ability for them to believe it. It's just funny, and it makes sense. Every important person in his life, he did the exact same thing.
Yeah,
I get it. That makes sense. It's just for a moment, I just thought it would be more fun. Just open the shirt and reveal the logo, and then fly up or something. Because it would have went with like the look on her face. What's the actress's name?
Emmanuelle Shrieky.
Yeah, I just never know how to pronounce it. Like I said, you just see the drop in her face as the full realization of what she's witnessing comes through, and I absolutely loved it. It's such good, so good stuff. And I really, really want Patty Spivot to watch this with me because she hasn't seen it yet. I'm excited to get to go through that. But
there you go.
There you go. So that's our favorite scenes. Now we're going to move on to feedback. But before we do, we're going to talk about Patreon. We really, really want to get you guys not only supporting the show, but just to be part of our Patreon group now, because we're having a lot of fun with that when we get to do our hangouts and where it's just us and our Patreon supporters live over a video call, and we're just hanging out. It's always a lot of fun. We're with each other for a couple hours. and it's great. And then the bonus stuff that they're getting it to send in extra questions or extra feedback that we answer specifically on a Patreon only show, and they are coming up with some fun questions. It's not just one extra thing about the TV episode. They're asking us personal questions, they're asking us fun questions, and we're really enjoying answering them. So we want to we want to say thank you to you guys for doing that, because it is a lot of fun. So appreciate that, but we hope you guys are enjoying our answers just as much. So all of you guys out there, let's get on the Patreon bandwagon, because it is starting to develop into something I hope it would. Just a fun little extra community, thanks to our supporters. So this is how you do that.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
If you don't dial, it will cry like a violin.
And we are going to kick it off with a voicemail from Dad L.
Hello, Super Fam. Well, I think I'm going to be Bizarro Dad L for a little bit with this feedback, but let's get to the good stuff first. Bizarro Jonathan represented a serious threat. I really felt the high stakes this week. He could have ruined the Kents' lives completely. We didn't know if the Johns would merge. We didn't know if Jordan could win in a fight against him. It was nice to see that kind of brotherly beatdown between the two. And from an acting perspective, I bet these guys love filming these scenes. However, there were several plot devices that I did not care for. Why didn't Clark show up as Superman to confront Bizarro Jonathan in downtown Smallville? Well, of course, he had to bump into Lana to get that plot line rolling. And they do have police in Smallville, right? If my mother was missing and there was broken glass, I would immediately call the authorities. But apparently they don't have phones, since Sarah just didn't call Lois. She drove over there. And Lois didn't call Clark later on in the episode either. Could Lana have pulled the kryptonite out of Clark any slower? Here you have Superman telling you to do it quickly, and she seems to be taking her sweet time. No, Superman tells you to hurry, you hurry. And finally, it's absolutely ridiculous that Lana had not deduced Clark's secret. I thought for sure when this moment came that Lana would tell Clark that she's known since seeing Superman up close last season. She kept a secret because she knew he was protecting his family. We didn't get that. We did get, earlier in the episode, we got her hitting on Superman. So she's obviously seen his face pretty good. And she's been up close with him, so I just thought that was a little incredulous. I know Superman and Clark Kent, the glasses, but this is Lana. This is his best friend for, 40 years or whatever it is. Anyway, I thought half the episode was great. I love the Bizarro Jonathan stuff, and the other half just not so great. The plot devices just seemed too contrived. I realized they had to do those things to get the story they wanted, but it just seemed too contrived. But again, John L., he was an awesome villain. I'm glad he's going to be around in the future, hopefully. So I was a little mixed on my rating. I'm going to go ahead and give it 7.5 brotherly beatdowns. Dad L., last father of Krypton.
So he mentioned all the things that we talked about. It just bothered him a lot more than it bugged us. So
yeah, but I think he was with me on a few of those scenes that I said.
Yeah,
I get it, but it felt really kind of contrived. I even used the same word, so I think he may appreciate some of my points.
Too funny. Yeah, I mean, and I get it. I've had to swallow it for my entire life, because we've all asked the question, why doesn't anybody recognize Clark as Superman? Because it's ridiculous that just a pair of glasses. And there's the argument out there that, well, it's also the personality, the way he behaves. Superman is stoic and brave and powerful, and Clark is completely opposite. He's the goofy nerd that trips over his tongue, trips over his feet, and that's the difference that have people not be able to recognize him in Superman. And it's hard for us as viewers to see somebody standing 3 feet from him, whether he's Clark or Superman, and not see the similarity. I mean, that part I totally agree with. I've just accepted it. That's just how it is, and oh well. I just really appreciated Lana's performance when that realization came down. Because probably part of it was, one thought that probably raced through her head was, how did I not figure it out all this time? I'm sure she thought about it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I hope we get a little bit of that in dialogue.
Yeah.
When they come back.
Yeah, it would be fun.
Yeah.
All right, next up is an email from Comic Geek Kev. And Harley, I don't think you've read Comic Geek Kev for a while, so you take this one.
All right. Good morning, legends. Good evening, Kevin.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not morning for us when we record this. But anyways, what an episode. Jordan and John L. face off. Jordan flies. Sort of. Bizarro Lana takes on the Irons family and loses, at least for now. Lana saves Superman, and Clark reveals his identity to Lana. This episode could have been called Lots O Lana.
That's true.
I thought Lana would find out last season, so I'm glad it's finally happened, and I liked the way he did it. Aw. Jordan really needs to learn anything about women. You don't beg your ex to read your "Don't Leave Me" letter when she's worried about her missing mom.
I know. See what I mean? He was annoying tonight.
Oh, whatever. He's 15. Anyways, still on vacation, so have to keep it short. Can't wait to hear y'all's views of the episode. Giving it 9.5 out of 10 chill identity reveals. Comic Geek Kev.
Good score. Yeah. Jordan, it's just too much. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Those scenes didn't bother me as much.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Perry White.
Hey, fam of Steel. Perry White here with feedback for Soups and Lowe's episode, Truth and Consequences. I give this episode 9.5 golden hour Superman reveals that no one else in Smallville sees out of 10. So let's talk about what I loved about the episode. I could easily say everything, but let's provide some context. Clark revealing his identity to Lana was probably some of the best acted, best shot, and best lit 2 minutes of television I've seen in quite some time. I think it's easy to forget that Clark and Lana are lifelong friends, and it must have been really difficult for Clark to conceal such a truth from his best friend. But you could see in that scene the weight that he held and what it felt like to be able to finally release it. And I choose to believe he didn't fly so much as he just rose above the burden of the weight of this secret. I can't wait to see the ramifications from this. I mean, will Lana tell Sarah? Will she tell Kyle? Will Clark tell her that the only reason he left Smallville as a teenager was to learn about his heritage and becoming Superman? If so, I suspect Lana will start comparing her life to what it could have been if Clark revealed his secret when they were teenagers and had decided to wait on Clark to return from his training at the Fortress rather than marry Kyle. I mean, her entire life would be so different, right? This revelation is ripe for so much storytelling. I just hope they don't go the Smallville route where anyone who learned Clark's secret either wound up dead or with convenient amnesia. Alright, here's my next point. By no means am I the person you want to rely upon for discussions about Christian imagery, but Superman's story, historically, is draped in it. It was pretty evident in the way the scene between Clark and Lana was shot, with Clark rising slowly with such golden light behind him. And in this episode, it was revealed that Clark was gone for 33 days, the age many believe Jesus was arrested and crucified. For many, the age of 33 is when many people decide it's time to get serious about life or time to accomplish something for themselves. In this case, it's when Clark and his family decide it's time to make the third most significant revelation of his life, telling Lana the truth. That's a pretty interesting narrative. And for my next point, I really love that Jordan Elsas has gotten so much to do in these past couple of episodes as John L. And we got the first super fight between John and Jordan, and it was holy freaking awesome. Elsas brings a quiet menace and hints of horror to the role, especially the scenes he had with Sarah and Lana. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it reminds me of the Smallville episodes where Clark was on Red K and Tom Welling gets to play an alternate version of himself. You could tell that Welling enjoyed it, and apparently so does Elsas. As X-Force mentioned in the last episode, I hope they figure out some sort of way for Earth Prime Jonathan to retain some of the powers of Jor-El. Maybe it'll be through an attempted merging that doesn't quite go to fruition, but it's enough to awaken Earth Prime Jonathan's latent Kryptonian powers. We'll see. All right. So what took the episode down a notch for me? I hate to say it, but it was probably the scenes with John Henry and Natalie. I love the two characters, and it wasn't a failing of the actors as far as I can tell, but it just feels like their story is floating along nebulously with no real connection to the main story. I mean, and beyond that, the writers haven't been really clear about what the two are trying to do on their own. At least in the preview for the next episode, it looks like they have a more proactive role in the overall plot, so that's good news. Okay, the next thing that took it down a notch for me. I do believe that each person had legitimate points to make during the arguments between Clark and Jonathan and Lois and Jordan. But personally, I just generally find arguments uncomfortable to watch. That's just a personal thing. Anyway, this was a fantastic episode, and what I love about Soups and Low is that it has this propulsive, kinetic energy to it. Like it's taking you on a thrill ride of action, emotion, and storytelling. The writers and directors have obviously taken the approach that they've got good stories to tell, and they're not going to spend their time spinning wheels and teasing things out for too long. That approach dogged Smallville to a great degree, and right now it's plaguing the Flash. I mean, good God, it took them 3 or 4 episodes to reveal Deathstorm, when everyone knew all along that it was going to be some sort of visage of Ronnie, right? And hell, they still haven't shown any light on Iris's whole time sickness. That kind of storytelling can be incredibly frustrating. I just appreciate that writers for Soups and Low are like, screw that. Ultimately, it might mean that we only get, say, 5 seasons of the show, even though I'd love it to have plenty more than that. But the way they tell stories, the viewer never feels like they're wasting their time on a pointless episode. Anyway, those are my thoughts. This has been Perry White making his deadline one more time. And I just wanted to say, happy early Mother's Day, Jess, and to all the other mothers, mommies, mamas, and bros out there. I'm out.
Perry, you are my best friend this week because you are picking up what I'm laying down, brother. I agreed with everything. I mean, from your description of the final moment, you're going to love my favorite scene for sure. And he described what I was trying to say with the irons. He picked up on the exact same vibe that I was getting. So, yeah, man, good thoughts.
He's in sync.
Next up is Dreamweaver.
Hello, fam of Steel. Dreamweaver here with my feedback for Superman and Lois, Season 2, Episode 11, Truth and Consequences. This was a solid follow-up episode to last week's, and I think brushed upon some of the questions we had last week, like Clark finding out he was gone for a month and remembering, just like the rest of us, when Jeff had to remind us. So obviously time does work different on the Bizarro Earth. I'm giving this one 8.5, but glasses, out of 10. They made such a point about Clark taking off his glasses at the end in the cinematography. Anyway, I have to really commend the show for the balance it strikes between showing urgency within the plot, yet also holding space for the slower or more quiet character moments, which I've watched a lot of shows and movies too that usually don't give enough time for those slower moments that really deepen the characters and the relationships together. And I want to give props to Jordan Elsas for pulling double duty this episode with both Jonathan and John L. We've seen Tyler pulling a lot of double duty with 2 different characters in one episode, and other versions of each other characters, but this one was really his, showing the difference in the two. The emotion between Jonathan and Lois when he's in the middle of merging at the very beginning was palpable. What a way to start off the episode. Also, Clark's face when Lois tells him that Lana won the election was priceless. I love Tyler's Clark. So good. We see that apparently you can speak through the pendant. I guess Allie must have taught John L. more about it, because we haven't seen that happen before, I don't think. We got to see Jordan fly this episode, even if it was only briefly, as he's wailing on John L. and proving him wrong. Then he does start to fall with not so much style, but Hey, that means he's on his way to fully becoming a Superboy. This one also gave us some nice scene partners who normally don't get to act together much, like with Sarah and Lois, Jon, even if it was Jor-El and Lana, Superman and Lana, which was a nice follow-up after last season when she took on Laura's soul to talk to him, and even Jon, again as Jor-El, and Sarah. They don't get to do too much together. It's mostly true. Jordan and Sarah. So I like seeing them too. Natalie and her dad working together was nice, even if we had to watch John Henry almost die again. It stopped doing that to us. And I find it interesting that they bring up the negative space in between the portals, and Natalie mentions that it sounds like where she was. Flash, I know you think it doesn't make too much sense that it would be the same spot, but it completely does to me that it's the same vacuum and nothingness that, in my opinion, was created most likely because of Crisis Fallout. So, this space seems important to the story overall if they keep bringing it up and showing it to us like this, or is even more set up for something else that's coming. And then the end scene. After a whole episode of characters arguing whether or not the secret is protecting the family or hindering it, and all kinds of back and forth, I was really waiting for this moment to happen where Clark reveals himself to Lana. The whole episode felt on this trajectory, and it was beautifully done. Emphasis on the glasses and all. First, despite Lana being the only one driving on it at the moment, that was a pretty public road. Maybe don't directly float above the road near other farms, Clark, but I digress. And either the crew was just getting incredibly lucky up there in Vancouver, since it's pretty much always raining, and they got this incredible post-rainstorm golden hour shot, almost like they saw it happening and had to go rush all the crew out to make sure they got that light, or they're just doing a lot of sky replacements all the time in this show, because the light was just perfect in that shot. And that's all I really want to talk about this week. So that's all for now. Until next time, your friend Dreamweaver.
So a couple of you brought that up. I think the road was not so open and public. They're in a farming community. They're way out in the middle of nowhere on a farm. Like, it's very easily everyone's at dinner or what, who knows. Like, things happen in cities that go unnoticed, and there's people like 3 feet from them. So I think on an open farm road, easily could be missed. I had no issue with that at all. But yeah, no, good thoughts for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, everybody, good feedback as always. Well, we're not going to hear from you guys for a little while, so it was nice to hear from you this week. But yeah, we return in 3 weeks, so if you want to get feedback in for when that comes, this is how you do it.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegendspodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter @tomorrowslegends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
I don't know why, that just gets me laughing every time.
Me too. It makes me happy.
So I just wanted to add this in. I don't know how many thoughts you want to add in, Harley, but I just had a couple because I didn't have a lot to say last week. And I'm now caught up on The Flash, except for this week's episode, but I want to share some thoughts. The last 2 episodes involving Deathstorm have been fantastic, because I was really, really rough and harsh on Flash in our last week's discussion because I hadn't watched the Deathstorm stuff yet. It just almost felt like old Flash again. There was tension, there was danger, there was emotion, there was ties to the past. They finally found a worthy story to tell on this show again, and it made me forget all about Iris. Oh wait, damn it, there she is. The one thing that's bugging me this season is how often and in almost every scene it's either Iris or Cecile grabbing their head and screaming or grunting in pain. It's gotten really old really fast, and I hate it. It's pretty much the only thing that those 2 actresses are doing now in the scenes that they get, and it's made Cecile almost as annoying as Iris. They're just not using her abilities in any interesting way anymore. And I think you guys know what I mean. Like when they both grab their hair or their foreheads and there's, that's all they do now. And I'm like, come on. I'm so sick of seeing them do that. Anyway, back to Flash. That scene with him, sorry, Jess, close your ears if you haven't seen this yet.
I haven't, but it's okay.
Okay. That scene with him riding the lightning was spectacular. comic book fun. They made it look great. It really had top-tier special effects competing like on the level of Superman special effects. Finally, Flash doing his superpower stuff did not look cheesy and low budget. I loved that moment so much, and it made me realize what they can do with the Flash if they just got creative and put some effort into it. Loved the last 2 episodes for sure. There you go.
Well, I haven't watched. I'm too behind. So the last 2, that includes the one that aired the other night and the one before that. So I haven't seen that. But what I did get was I got the reveal that we figured out that the Black Flames were Ronnie. And then we kind of get that whole like flashback episode with, it's basically like Caitlin and Ronnie's story that we never got to see. And then it ends with the Deathstorm reveal stating that he's not really Ronnie, that Ronnie really died, blah, blah, blah. And so that was the last thing that I saw. But I agree with you. I think because these stories are heavily involving Frost, Caitlin, and like their past, like Ronnie, who, you know, we haven't seen Robbie Amell on the show in forever.
Oh, wasn't it so good to see him again?
Yes. Oh, so nice to see him again. And so, like, I think it's because I'm more invested in Caitlin's storyline because she's always been there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And so it kind of made more sense to flesh out everything and to get this story told and for it to have it sounds like 3, maybe 4 episode arc. So I haven't quite got to the end of it. I'm hoping maybe there's like a silver lining, but it doesn't sound like there is. So I'll just gotta see how it ends when I get there. But I kind of agree with you. Like, I am curious about this time sickness thing, but I'm not completely like loving the storylines. Like, I didn't hate it, but it got to be really confusing because there's 0 answers right now about what's going on with Iris. She's like touching people and people are disappearing, or like things out of buildings are disappearing, and then like this meta that they've met in Coast City has now made her disappear, and I'm like, what is happening? And so it's just it's all very confusing right for me right now. So I'm hoping to get a little bit more information on that in the next couple episodes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. It's like Carrie just said, actually, that they haven't progressed her story at all. It's taking this entire season, and they still don't have a clue what's happening to her. I'm like, why are they dragging it out so much? Because all it's led to her is going, every episode. So I just like, I don't know. It's gone nowhere. And it's not like her story was interesting to begin with. Now they got this thrown into it, trying to give her something to do, and sorry, it's just not working.
Yeah, I just don't think it's well written, and it's just not digging in. And once again, I totally agree with you, Harley, about the whole deal is Caitlin's being a part of the original team and bringing Ronnie and having the dynamic with Snow and with Frost, and I really appreciate that dynamic and where they're going there, and so that's just really drawn me in because of the history. And and it's hard when like that dynamic is more important than Flash, but it feels like such a touchstone to the past, and it feels more like old times. I don't know, that's why it kind of draws me in, nostalgia. So
yeah, but that's such a good point, X-Force, because it connected us to the past, the first 3 seasons of Flash, when Flash was at the height of its game and it was the best show on TV. It's connecting us to that part of it, which is why it's so good and why we're feeling so emotionally invested in it. And what I find amazing is that Robbie Amell, who hasn't been part of the Flash, and his character Firestorm, Ronnie, hasn't been part of the Flash since all the way back, what was it, season 1 or season 2, right? So the fact that we can still feel this much drama and ties to that from that many seasons ago shows you how good it was, and that they're missing that now. So
they are missing it now. I don't feel those kind of ties to the newer characters at all. Like, we got a couple episodes of Chuck's backstory, and I was like, that's great. And then like the thing with him and Allegra, the will they won't they, I'm like, I don't care, just make them pick one way or the other. Like, they've not been able to invest me in the new characters in that same way.
Or Allegra and her sister or whoever it was.
It was her cousin, but they killed off the cousin before we had time to get invested in that relationship at all.
Yeah. Same feeling though, right?
Yeah, I was like, okay, that sucks. I guess we'll move on. And she was like a cool character too. Like, I would have loved to have seen her stick around, but no, they just killed her off.
Yeah. And I think the other part that's bugging me about Cecile is she's obviously been shoehorned in to replace Joe, because now we know that Joe's not returning next season. But when the actor hurt his back and he was forced to leave the show for a while, they basically shoehorned her in to replace him, and then they've left her there. And he's not getting anything good anymore, and it's all about her. Every sequence she's in, it's all about her and her stupid ability that they don't know how to use properly, and it's just every scene she has, it's a close-up of her face, and I don't know, I'm getting tired of her. She is slowly catching up to Iris of me getting tired of this performer and what they're giving her, and I'm done with her too. It's like, no, I want Joe back. Give me the father-son bonding with him and Barry and all that good stuff that we just don't have anymore.
Yeah, they won't bring that back. They've kind of like moved on from it.
Yeah. And Cecile, that character just is not fitting the part. She's not filling that shoe for me.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's our flash thoughts for this week. And that wraps us up for this show, and it wraps us for a few weeks. We got some bonus Patreon content to record, though. That's what we'll do next, and then after that, it's gonna be 3 weeks off. We're all busy, but hopefully everybody has a good couple weeks off. You guys can still send us feedback, send your thoughts, join the Facebook page, get on there, because I'm sure during the hiatus, news and stuff will be revealed. And we can keep track and keep in touch with each other that way too. So, that's all I got, guys. I know I'm excited about returning to the Mandalore soon. It is May, and Obi-Wan Kenobi premieres May 27th. So we're very, very excited about that. And there's been a lot of news coming out. Me and Vizsla are going to get on the Mandalore and record an episode here within the next week. We're going to talk about some of the news. The Star Wars May the 4th Be With You Day. A bit of news came out, and we're going to talk about, I think, Disney Gallery. They did a special Boba Fett episode. We got a few things. We got one more episode coming for you. That's all I got. Cool. This is The Flash, signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
This is X-Force 11. So say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, HBO, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Be sure to check out our partner shows, The Mandalore and Dive into DC, covering your favorite Star Wars and DC Comics properties. Thanks for listening.